It's time now for our weekend health roundup. ABC News medical unit producer Sony Salzman is here to talk about several important stories we're following. Okay, Sony, always a pleasure to have you here in person. Now, it's hard to miss the massive headline this week. We're talking about a recall of radioactive shrimp. Please tell me that I can't have my favorite protein. What's going on?
Well, hopefully your favorite protein is safe, but let me just break it down for you. Okay,
please.
So earlier this week, the FDA announced that Customs and Border Patrol, they detected radioactive material on these big container ships that contain this frozen shrimp. Now, since then, Thursday, Friday, 2 companies have come out and said we're issuing voluntary recalls because we think some of our products may have been impacted here. And this includes products that were sold at Walmarts. So, you know, we're talking here about a radioactive material called cesium-137. I had to look down at my notes here. And this is typically a material that's found in industrial products or medical devices. So it's really a mystery how this contamination happened. But to get to your question, thankfully, the FDA says that they have not detected any radioactive shrimp on store shelves. These recalls are being done out of an abundance of caution because radioactivity is not something you want to mess around with.
Yeah, not at all.
Not at all. At the levels they found, you wouldn't expect to see anything like an acute poisoning. But of course, there's this underlying concern that any level of radiation at low levels, constant exposure, can increase your cancer risk.
Right. Now, what about the Legionnaires disease outbreak in New York City? That's already claimed 6 lives, right?
Absolutely. I mean, it's a really tragic situation in Harlem that has already claimed 6 lives. Hundreds of people have been sickened. And, you know, I just want to be clear here that Legionnaires disease, it doesn't spread person to person. It's not that kind of outbreak. Right. This is a bacteria that tends to live in standing water. So people can become infected in a number of ways, but one of the most common ways is if there's this bacteria living in the cooling towers and these tall buildings that we have here in New York City. If that's the case, it can get through the ventilation system, become aerosolized, we breathe it in, that's how people get sick. Now there is a 10% fatality rate associated with Legionnaires disease, and lawsuits have been filed against 2 construction companies, the allegation being that they were not cleaning out those water towers.
Now, is there anything people can do to protect themselves from this? I mean, I'm pretty sure it's on the top of people's minds right now.
Well, you know, at the medical unit, I always like to give people concrete things they can do to take home and protect themselves because this tends to be a systemic issue having to do with building maintenance. There's very little people can do, but obviously if you have any symptoms, seek medical attention, and of course through collective action, people can make sure that their buildings are being maintained.
Okay, and there's something else I want to talk to you about that kind of piqued my mind real quick. One person in California has tested positive for the plague. This follows the death of an Arizona resident last month. Now, this sounds like something from the 1500s, but this is actually very common in animals, right? So is there any way for people to actually protect themselves I can't believe I'm saying this, from the plague?
Yeah, I mean, if the bubonic plague sounds medieval, it's because this is the same disease that was responsible for the deaths of up to half of Europeans in the 1300s. Now, thankfully, today, miracles of modern medicine, we have antibiotics. This is caused by a bacteria. This is actually very rare, 7 cases per year. This resident in Lake Tahoe, they are thankfully recovering at home. But this disease, it can be deadly if it's left untreated. The CDC says about 15 cases in the past 25 years, including just last month, a person in Arizona died. So, you know, what can you do at home? Again, I just want to emphasize this is very rare, but if you have telltale symptoms, fever, cough, those swollen lymph nodes, tell your doctor. If you've been in touch with an animal, you know, this person maybe was bitten by a flea. So if you've been in camping or in touch with an animal, that's something you want to let your doctor know.
Okay, Sony, thank you for the life-saving information.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Sony.